So this is my current biased meta tier list. I have put forward like an S tier, A tier, B tier, C, and D for all the characters that are right now present in Genshin. And yeah, there might be biases, but I have my personal reasons for why I put certain characters higher than others. So for the first character is Newlet, and we know that he's a very amazing DPS that has a huge range AOE and can also be great in single target. Has a lot of artifact options as well because his personal damage is so nice. You can use Marish, but you can also use a Wanderer's Troop or Replacing Bolide or sometimes even Shimenawa if you like. But the basic idea is that his Hydro app is very strong, so even against shields and stuff, he's really great. And let's just say you have like an enemy or 2 or 3 enemies scattered around, so you can just aim at one and you can just hit them forever. Like, it's so useful, and there's so much consistent damage throughout. So and he's also very easy to play. His only disadvantage would be against enemies that are Hydro immune, and that's pretty much it. And since he can self-sustain and he has a lot of different teammates that he can use, it makes him much easier to play and build even for newer players. Next we have Farina. Farina does a lot of consistent off-field damage even when you're not attacking. So although it's hard to build her because you need a proper golden troop set, but her damage doesn't matter that much because it will be around 19k to 30k. You see these kinds of damages only at C0. So although she might feel like not that much of a great damage dealer, but because there's so much constant attacks happening off field, she's really strong. On top of that, she drains everyone's HP, which activates Marish for a lot of people, and Vermilion even. And then she gives you a buff based on how much your character lost their HP or heal, which gives a lot of damage percent to a lot of characters. And so it's not just the damage, but also the huge buff that you get for a long time, like it's around 17 seconds. And then the skill duration is almost infinite because you can always refresh it and it lasts for a long time. So I think Farina is a lot better in that regard as a support, probably the best support in the game. Next we have Jinsho, and Jinsho is like he has a huge skill hit, but his main advantage as character is that he has this very consistent Hydro application. He has lots of units of Hydro app, and he constantly applies it through his main swords and his circle orbitals. And basically it can be used in a Gupao team, can be used in Hyper Bloom, especially when Nahida is driving. It's better to have Jinsho because his Hydro app and Nahida's Hydro app just match so perfectly. There are lots of blooms, and so in a Nilo Bloom team or any Cookie team or even a Latham teams, like he's one of the best choices. And even in like a Sucrose national kind of a team, you can double wave with his skill and make huge hits. So he's in general very useful for a lot of characters. Even if you want to play a normal, suppose Ayaka Freeze, you can also slot in Jinsho. And if you want to play plunge DPS kind of thing with Dilo, Zhanyun, or even like Pyro Zhao, which I'll be talking about later, he's pretty useful. The only drawback is that he doesn't work with charge attacks and stuff. So and he doesn't have this off-field consistency. You have to do normal attacks for him to proc that. But Hydro app itself is not limited to attacking. If you get close enough to your enemies, you can apply Hydro to them, which is pretty useful. And since he works with Dendro as well as so many different things, I think he's better than Bennett. Bennett gives you a lot of healing on top of giving you a huge attack buff, which is useful for everyone. But he is mainly used in hyper teams, or even he himself can be a DPS. But it's a little bit restricted because mostly you don't want him in Dendro teams because it creates burning and that reduces your hyper potential. And Jinto also had this damage reduction thing. So the higher your hyper damage, the more damage reduction you get. Also you get some healing. So he's like a complete package. And Bennett has a lot of things, but he doesn't have that much defensive utility. He heals a lot and it's really fast. But he also gives you a pyro application, so sometimes enemies can hit you real hard with that. Yeah, but it's also a problem with Jinto because sometimes the enemies can freeze you. Next, why plays Hu Tao now? Yeah, maybe I'm a little biased towards Hu Tao, but like I feel Hu Tao is so strong with normal charge and plunge attacks nowadays, and her burst is so good, and then she scales off of her HP as well as attack, and then you can just play some EM. And it's pretty easy to build her with 2 piece PM or 2 piece EM pyro damage or 8 HP or even like Shimenawa's Marichose, Retracing Bolide, and then Gilded Dreams. There are so many options for her. It's pretty easy, and then you can get like Dragon's Bane or Black Cliff Pole or Deathmatch or White Tassel because her attack doesn't matter that much since you'll be building HP anyway, so you can just focus on other stats. And if you get 5-star weapons like Scarlet Sands or Homa, she's even stronger. And I think she's one of the best carries that you can place her with Jinsho, and that's more than enough because she can kill enemies so fast that AoE doesn't even matter. And if you need AoE, you can use Kazuha in a BD team where you group everyone, shred their resistances with Bennett, and then you have Jinsho applying Hydro to them, or Yelan, but Yelan's combos are a little bit difficult because you have to do N2 and then charge attack. It's an N2C kind of combo where you apply enough Hydro so you can vape each time without Yelan overtaking the waves, and grouping enemies, and then you can just use a burst or whatever and instantly heal yourself and also kill everyone. And since she can also self-sustain just like Nuvillette, although it's a bit burst reliant, so she's a little lower, but I think her damage is so high, like she can carry you anywhere. And against single target, she's just OP. Like her DPS is really high. If you build her really well, it goes to almost 160k DPS, but there are lots of combos to it, which needs a little practice and skill. And although a lot of people like jump cancelling, I don't think it's very viable in mobile. So you can just use normals and then charge normals charge. That way you can balance out her stamina usage. And I think that once you get like Farina, Bennett, Jinsho, and Hu Tao, that's more than enough for one team, and you will can almost solo. So like the top 5 characters are already like spiral abyss ready. Next we have Yelan, and Yelan is really great because her burst gives you damage percent bonus. You can equip Elegy and give your teammates attack and EM, and she wants energy. She wants like Fonius or Elegy, whichever is better. And then Aqua can be a very good like damage option for her if you have like C1 and you want to do more damage with her on field. And she has this E which tags so many enemies together, and then you can deal a lot of damage together to them. And you get particles. Vasak is not really that great because like Jinsho has a double hit on his skill, but Yelan has only a single hit, so she can't proc Vasak bow very reliably. And plus the high base attack doesn't do much. You need more energy, so Fab is usually recommended. And I think Lalan has this huge potential because she's basically another Jincho, but like her damage enhancing capabilities are so good, and she also hits faster, I think, and all of those hits are higher. But again, if you want more Hydro app, you would want Jincho because, like as I said with Nahida, if you use Lalan, the blooms don't have that much. There are not that many blooms. It's because Jincho has so many units, and Lalan doesn't have that many at C0. She gets almost as good as Jincho at C2. And I mean, by that I don't mean that the damage percent increase or her own personal damage, which are obviously high, but like you want, since it's a reaction based game, you want good reactions, right? So that's why I think Jincho is higher. But it depends on, like, some people prefer Yelan over Jincho, but I like the defensive option, like these orbitals, they protect you. It feels really comfortable to play. Next we have Kazuha. I know a lot of people who have placed Kazuha a lot higher, but I think these days the enemies are very resistant to getting grouped, and his elemental damage increase plus BB shred and everything is just so OP, and like he's really amazing in a lot of different situations. And but since these days we also have Zhanyu and we have Rina, so his use case has declined a little bit. That's why he's a little lower, but I still love him, and I think he's one of the my favorite characters to play. And you can even use him in a Zhanyu team with something with Ben C6. It's just fun to play with him in many different ways. I think he's also pretty useful in a lot of different content, like events where there are lots of enemies. One of my favorite teams is Bennett, Jungling, Furina, and Kazuha. They call it Free National, and it just obliterates everything. You can just focus on Bennett, Jungling, and Kazuha, and Furina can do consistent wave damage. It's really fun. Also Xiao National, actually it's not Xiao National, but I call it National, where you, instead of Kazuha, we use Xiao and then Bennett, Jungling, and Furina, and that's also a pretty great team for these events. But it's also very energy hungry, so I wouldn't recommend that too much. So next we have Nahida, and we all know Nahida is like the queen of Dendro. Like she's the one who has all the activation and gives so much EM buff with her burst, and in general carries Dendro on her back almost, because every Dendro character needs, or any electro character or any character who wants to do Dendro related damage prefers Nahida over a lot of other characters, because she's just such a great support. She has almost infinite scale up time, and although sometimes her Dendro application gets overridden, like suppose if you're playing Mulet right in Nahida, Mulet's aggro sometimes overtakes Nahida. That's why you cannot generate enough blooms, which is why I feel like Nahida on fielding with Jincho is often better for hyper blooms or like Mila blooms. And but if you have Kokomi, then again it becomes a different thing, because you can use another Dendro option in the team to do that. Plus there's also the Mary and Al-Hitam who work with Nahida. There's also Kiching. They're pretty good, they're pretty solid. So I think Nahida works as a great support for everyone. You can also use Virgin Vow or any kind of these oven teams and fire teams. I think we can look at the chef's cooking skills for this. So next we have the actual chef, which is Zhanling, and she has this, no ICD fire application, and she just does so much AoE damage. You can just group everyone with Kazuha and, funnel energy to her with Bennett, and she'll just obliterate everything. And you can use Child or Raiden or Jincho or Sucrose, whatever. So a lot of teams that prefer like Zhanling, it's just because she has this snapshotting capability that her burst snapshots all the boss, and then she goes around doing damage. In certain very niche setups where you use Instructors on Bennett, you can get a lot of damage out of Zhanling. You can do a backpedaling kind of thing, and then make her Pyro hit the enemy twice or thrice even. So those are very high skill level things that you use with like support and child teams, and they can clear everything, because like even if you have shields and stuff, since there is no ICD, you do a lot of fire damage. So my reasoning for the first row is that Nicolet has so much overall damage that he's just on top of everyone. You just have him, you can use very bad support with him, and he still clears. Freena is really useful for any kind of scenario, and she buffs everything. Every team member is just so useful. Jinto has application damage, and it's just defensive utility plus some healing. It's really great. Bennett gives you a huge attack buff on top of healing you. Hu Dao is like the most amazing DPS after Nicolet, I think, because and we need 2 DPSs, right? We cannot just use support. So in my ideas, I would like to keep a few DPSs ahead. And she has no ER issues like Jungling, right? So you can just use her E and then get buffs from both HP, attack, EM. It's very easy to build her. And these days, she just gets stronger with Janyon, with Freena, with Kazuha. Every new character that comes out, or any artifact or anything, it just buffs Hu Dao, man. And then we have Yelan with a similar role to Jinto, but a little less useful in when you need hydro application, but also buffs your team and everything, and can equip Alizé, which makes her really strong. And then we have Kazuha, who has this huge AoE potential, great against crowds, and it gives you a huge buff as well. Pretty useful. These characters can go in any order, but like this is my preference. Nahida, of course, with the application and everything, EM buff, and then we have Zhanling with her huge awful DPS. Next we have Zhanyu. Zhanyu makes literally every character plunge DPS, and I've been enjoying with her so much. Like you can just slap some attack and ER, and she just she can do self, like she can be a damage dealer as well. But most people prefer, or even I prefer, to play with her as a support. And since she has this huge healing that's so consistent, it's way better than Jean, because Jean has this instant healing and then very low healings, but Zhanyu has a huge healing plus a lot of huge healing later on. Plus gives everyone a huge plunge buff, and it works like Shenna, right? So you multiply her attack with her multiplier, like a 200% of her attack, I think, and then you add it to your main DPS's multiplier, right? So suppose your Xiao has 3000 attack, and his plunge damage bonus is around 400% if you ground it, normal attack. So you have 3000 into 400%, which is 12,000, and then you have Zhanyu with say 3000, and you get 6,000. So you, instead of Xiao doing only 12,000 like at base, you are also adding Zhanyu's 6,000 to it. So now it's 18,000. Then you multiply it with the crit and the damage percent and EM and all those kind of things. So it basically makes it so that even if you have less attack on your characters, she just buffs that. And her signature is so good with 20% plunging damage bonus and gives her energy return back. Even if you use Fab, it's really great. I think just having her in any team is just so useful, because she heals you, she gives you a plunge damage bonus, and she has so much mobility in many different scenarios. I think a lot of characters just plain improved, like D-Book, plunge Xiao, like Xiao got improved because he's no longer tied to Bennett circle. He doesn't have any ER issues anymore, and you can even play Pyro Xiao, which is so useful like in doing like speed runs. And then even now we have got better. A lot of melee characters like who uses swords or claymores, they got better. Even there are some very funny combos with new blood plunges and even channeling Bennett plunges, which are so self-sustained, right? Because you want to save Bennett in those teams, and then Bennett can do the damage, so you can have off healers taking his place. So it's very useful. Even like in Dendro comp, she's useful because now you can plunge with more often with Chain or Athetum or even Brandon if you like. So it's pretty useful. Like Genshin is like amazing, very fun to play. Next we have Kokomi, and yeah, Kokomi is also a very similar AoE healer, and her Hydro App is so useful for mainly for Mahila teams and Hilo Bloom teams. And even in freeze teams, she's amazing. She heals. She has this constant application of Hydro, which is very useful for many different contents. And then we have Baiju, who's a little bit more single target, not AoE like Kokomi, but he also has a pseudo shield which gives resistance to interaction and has a very constant Dendro App plus some elemental reactions and stuff. You know, he buffs those kind of things. I don't have Baiju unfortunately, but I feel like he would be such a comfortable character to have, and it's just he's even like really amazing with his slow healing, his burst plus shield, and on top of that he heals with his skill, and it's pretty huge, and it works with Furina very well. Next we have Zhongli. His shield is also like unbreakable almost if you have like over 50k HP, and although a lot of people try to play Fav Zhongli because it gives some energy, but I like playing this nasty with full HP with Black Tassel. Very easy to build HP. I think it's very similar to how you build Kokomi or Baiju, but with healing bonus, but Zhongli only wants HP, which is really easy to get, and his shield is just so strong, and it shreds resistances, and you can slot him in almost any team, and he's just so comfortable. I've been using him like since I got him like 2 years ago, and he has been in like most of my teams because he's just so comfort based. You can do a lot of damage with your characters without worrying about getting hit, which means more DPS because you're not dodging or doing anything that trying to save yourself, and it's just the rotations are faster. Like for example for Ganyu or Yoimiya, like you don't want to miss out on the charge attacks, right? Same thing for Lini. And it's just so much more useful because they have this very short DPS windows, and if you miss out on those, it just feels like a waste. He's also great for Wu Tao, though these days we use Bennett with Wu Tao, but previously there was a double Hydro core with Zhongli, and because Wu Tao wanted to be low HP at the time, so Zhongli shield was pretty useful for her. Next we have Ayaka, and Ayaka, although is a bit expensive for some people, but I think there are lots of variations to her. You can play her in a Mel team with Jean Sunfire. You can also play her as a just plain burst support while giving her hybrid rate, or play her in freeze teams, which is normal. Even play her in a hyper fridge kind of thing, and she's just so amazing because she has this huge damage that is dealt in very short periods, and most of the bosses don't move that much, so you can get by. Her charge attack is also very strong, and her burst is her main thing, and with suppose if you have Shinra, her burst hits really hard, but even if you don't have that, you can use Diona, Mona, or Rosaria or anything, and she still hits hard. And I think like based on any team, like even a Bennett Jungle team was pretty great for her, and she also has a craftable weapon, and you can also use Black Clef since Blizzard gives so much crit rate. Her main use case where I find her to be the most useful is against those Hydrolectors and Electrolectors, where they have these thick shields, and since has cutting damage, right, there are lots with like 90 to 20 hits per burst, it shreds through their shields pretty quickly. So I think in such scenarios you don't need more DPS, you need more instances of damage, and I think Ayaka does that pretty well. It's a similar case of how Shinjo or Nahida has so many instances, so they break shields pretty quickly in jungling or Kokomi. So these kinds of characters, they tend to do so much damage so frequently that they end up shredding shields faster. Same thing happens with Child, because you have so much Hydro App, and he has these Riptides and everything, and although he's an amazing DPS because no matter what kind of enemy you face, you always have the Pyro and the Anemo and the Hydro, so either one of them are going to delete the enemy, and it's just so useful. You can play him in like a Zhongli Bennett jungling team for more comfort against bosses, or you can play him in a regular international team which has so much potential because speedrunners use so many different strats and techniques to cheese through content. I think Child is a very underrated and very powerful character, and his cooldown doesn't matter that much because you should get off of him early to funnel jungling for her burst, and then continuously deal damage. And a huge damage buff is not buff, but like a huge instance of damage is his burst, which is like one of the highest nukes in the game, same as Gao's burst. But he just hits so much harder, and you can even pair him with the Bennett jungling GQ core, normal national core, which is really strong. I think Child is one of those underrated, amazing units that have come out and has been good from the first version of Genshin.